Hello everybody. In this video we are going to be taking a look at question 52 from the math test inside test 1 in your red book. So pause the video, flip to number 52, read through it real quick. Once you're done, hit play and we will talk it through together. Now I have to say, I like this problem. I think this problem is fun. I'm a big math nerd, and so I think this problem is fun. And the reason I think it's fun, and you probably don't think it's fun, is because it's actually more complicated than it looks. This question's a little tricky. It's a little tough. On the surface, it's not a very long word problem. It's a word problem. We've done them before, but once you start to dig into it, it can be a little tough. But we're going to attack this like a word problem, and I'm going to walk you through how to solve it. So question 1 in your word problem strategy, what am I trying to find? As you read through the question, you'll see at the very end it asks you, how many quarters did this person have? How many quarters? Okay? And we move on to step 2, what do I know? You read through this whole situation, you realize that this person has $8.25 total. And then it gives you one of these types of puzzle scenarios. It says they have two times as many nickels as they do pennies. They have one fewer dime than nickels, and they have one more quarter than nickels. So this is everything that we know. This is what we're trying to find. And I'm going to walk you through step 3, how to solve the problem. Now there's a couple of different ways you could do this. You could build a big system of equations if you wanted to. We're actually going to do it in a way that I think is a little bit simpler than that. So let's start here, okay? Let's start by saying we're going to have some number P, and P is going to be the number of pennies that this person has. And what's kind of cool that you might not notice about this problem at first, what's cool is that we can actually express the number of nickels, the number of dimes, and the number of quarters in terms of the number of pennies, which is pretty neat. Let me show you what I mean, okay? Let's start here. It says that there are 2 times as many nickels as there are pennies, meaning that if P is the number of pennies that we have, then the number of nickels is going to be 2P, because there's twice as many nickels as there are pennies, right? Same here, okay? One fewer dimes than nickels. Well, if there are 2P nickels, we'll start with, we have 2P nickels, and we have one fewer dime than nickels. This is kind of incorporating our translating words into algebra as well, right? So one fewer dime than nickels, one fewer means we're going to subtract 1, and 2P minus 1 is the number of dimes that we have. Let's move on to quarters. One more quarter than nickels. If there are 2P nickels and then we have one more quarter than nickels, the number of quarters has to be 2P plus 1. That's how many quarters we have. All right? Pardon me. Now we're going to throw this all together to find the number of quarters that we have. This is where, if you were going to build a system of equations, everything would come together into this one equation. So here's what we have. We have P pennies, and we're going to say pennies are worth 1 cent, right? We can do this either way. You could use a decimal, or you could just use the number of cents. I'm just going to use the number of cents. So P is worth 1 cent. Plus, remember, P is the number of pennies, plus the number of nickels. Let's move in ascending order, okay? Plus the number of nickels. We have 2P nickels, and nickels are worth 5 cents a piece. Moving right along, we've got 2P minus 1 dimes, and dimes are worth 10 cents a piece. And finally, we have quarters. I'm actually going to move on to the next line down. Hopefully that's not too confusing. Move on to quarters. We have 2P plus 1 quarters, and quarters are worth 25 cents a piece. And in total, we have $8.25, which since I've been writing cents as just 1 or 5 or 10 or whatever, I'm going to say that $8.25 is the same thing as 825 cents. Okay? So now you'll notice P, once again, is a number of pennies, and I've expressed every single coin in terms of pennies. I have one variable, P, and I'm trying to find the number of quarters. If I know that quarters, there are 2P plus 1 quarters, if I can solve for P, plug it in right here, it will tell me exactly how many quarters there are. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and solve for P, and that will in turn tell us how many quarters there are. So if you need to pause the video for a second to take a look at what's happening here, I know this is, kind of a complicated problem here. I'm going to go ahead and erase our top 2 slots here, and we are going to walk through solving this equation. We're just going to use basic algebra to get through here. So we have P times 1, that's P. Then we have 2P times 5, that's 10P. Then we have plus, if we distribute this 10 through, we have plus 20P minus 10. Moving on down, 25, we'll distribute that through as well. So we'll have plus 50P plus 25 equals 825. So now let's go ahead, we'll combine our like terms. So we have P plus 10P, that's 11P, plus 20P, that's 31P, plus 50P, that's a total of 81P. And then we have 25 minus 10 is 15. So we have 81P plus 15 equals 825. Stay with me here. Now, next step, we subtract 15 from both sides, and you get 81P equals 810, right? Now we want to solve for P. So we'll divide both sides by 81. I'm sorry, yeah, there we go. We'll divide both sides by 81. And that gives us that P is equal to 10. Okay? Now great. We've done all this work and we've gotten that P is equal to 10. But be careful because this is not your final answer. Remember, P is the number of pennies. Whoops, let me fix this 0 here. P is the number of pennies. We want the number of quarters. So be careful, there's one final step. Let me erase this bottom part here. We know from earlier, if you need to rewind the video to find this, we know that the number of quarters was equal to 2P plus 1. Now if P is 10, we'll substitute that in for P. We'll get 2 times 10 plus 1, which is the same thing as 20 plus 1, which is 21. Meaning that after all that work, we finally have it. This person had 21 quarters. So your answer is 21.